You are what your deep driving desire is. As is your deep driving desire, so is your word. As is your word, so is your deed. As is your deed, so is your destiny. Those words from the Buddha really talk about the theme for the day. And this morning, Lynn asked me, what's your theme? And I said, don't be wishy-washy. What is your deep driving desire? Don't be two-minded. Jesus said, let your yeses be yes and let your no's be no. Be either hot or be cold. And if you're not either hot or cold, if you're wishy-washy or lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. I'm going to have a lot of rude Jesus quotes this morning. He said a lot of things that weren't politically correct nor particularly taught in Sunday school. But they're very, very important because it's about making a commitment to your soul. I make a commitment to the growth of my soul. Together? I make a commitment to the growth of my soul. So what is your deep driving desire? What is that destiny that is yours, that you will place into motion by catching hold of what? Your purpose. Your divine purpose. What is your divine purpose? Well, first of all, it's probably not something really grandiose. Mother Teresa said, God doesn't so much want us to do great things as to do the small things in front of us with great love. So what is your purpose? And the purpose of every soul is found at the intersection of three things. Now, don't get too much in your head about it, but there are three things that when they cross, where they cross, that's where your purpose is. First, it's what is the will of God, or what is the divine plan, the highest good. So the will of God, or the divine plan. The second is, what is your spiritual growth? What is your soul, your own soul, growing into? What is your spiritual growth? And the third is, what are the needs of the people around you? What are the needs of the people around you? Wayne Dyer, in this chapter of 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace, said something very, very disturbing, kind of. He said, don't die with your music still in you. Don't die with that song still in you. And this week, we saw a great Unity student, and she called herself a student of Unity on Oprah recently, and was in tears talking about the transformational experience of studying Lessons in Truth, and that's Maya Angelou. I remember speaking once at a church, and she spoke, it was in New York City, and she spoke the Sunday before. She was a member of that church, and she'd been studying Unity for years. But her shift in her consciousness to fulfill her divine purpose happened at the intersection of these three things. The divine purpose, her personal spiritual growth, and the needs of the people around her. But she said something almost exactly the same as Wayne Dyer when she wrote, if you have a song to sing, who are you not to open your mouth and sing to the world? Who are you not to sing your song? But so often I see people stopping themselves because they think that their song has to be something grandiose. They think it's got to be some great thing. But no, as Mother Teresa said, it is that small thing that's right in front of you that you do with your whole heart, with great love. And as Jesus said, if you do and take care of the small things, the bigger things will take care of themselves. You'll be entrusted with more. So do the thing that's in front of you to do, and it may be holding your grandbaby. It may be doing something that's very local. What is it for you? Discern it. But also ask yourself, start looking around, looking within. What is my divine purpose? And what is the song that I came here to sing? I am singing the song that I came here to sing. Together? I am singing the song that I came here to sing. But in doing this, you got to stop being so wishy-washy. You've got to commit to it. Back when Rosalie was 6 years old, she's 17 now, but when she was 6, we went to Winter Park, Colorado, and she took a 2-hour morning class on how to ski. And then they let her loose on the slopes, and as her dad, I went with her, and I took her to the top of the mountain. We had 10,000 feet to go down, but I was going to go down all the green runs, and she was quite adept. She did very, very well, except for I made a wrong turn. And there we were just before getting down to the very bottom, and because I took the wrong turn, the only way to get down was Well, there were no moguls involved, but it was double diamond. It was straight down. And I thought, and there's no way to backtrack. And there was nothing we could do. So I'm trying to help her pick her way down the hill, and she looks at me, she says, "No, Daddy, I'm going to do it my way." And she turns to go down the hill, and she said, I said, "No, Rosalie, don't do that." She says, "No, Daddy, I got to move fast before I lose my not afraid." So I don't lose my not afraid. I got to move fast so I don't lose my not afraid. Together? I got to move fast so I don't lose my not afraid. She headed straight down the hill, and I mean, she did it. And I picked my way down that like this. Make a commitment, move with it. Move with it. It's not being foolhardy, it's being committed with your whole being. And it's not just something grandiose. Realize it is about your spiritual growth. Your spiritual growth always comes first. But what is the intersection between the will of God, your spiritual growth, and the needs of the world? The will of God. What is that? Well, I will to will the will of God. Together? I will to will the will of God. Remember, I've shared that Jane Elizabeth Hart read in the book by Glenn Clark, 100 years old, called I Will Lift Up Mine Eyes, when she was very young, in her 20s. She's now much older than that. I won't tell you how old she is because she hasn't given me permission. But she said, she read in that book, if you will say, I will to will the will of God 1,000 times, your life will change and will never change back. I will to will the will of God. Together? I will to will the will of God. And so it's opening up to a higher will, a higher good, a higher divine design, a higher destiny, something that is greater for yourself. And as you move into that higher will, amazing things happen, and you can never get your life back in the box that it was in before. It's like, getting a shipment from Amazon. You try to ship it back, it's never going to fit in that box. And you are always going to move beyond the limitations of your old self, the self that you're holding on to and trying to play it safe for yourself and trying to make yourself, it's a nice little nest. I'm just going to feel comfortable here. I'm just going to kind of cruise here. What the heck? I read an article by a guy who was a wonderful spiritual teacher, but the change in his life that got him to start spiritually teaching was when he was 22 years old and he was rock climbing in Colorado. And as he was climbing the rock in Colorado, he slipped and he fell, possibly to his death, but of course it wasn't to his death. He had many months in the hospital to recover. But he recalled that in the period of time from where he slipped to where he landed, which he went back and looked at, couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 seconds. It felt like many minutes, and he had his entire life pass before his eyes. And they've done many studies on this, in Switzerland where people fall and things like that. They find that people have this experience where your life does pass before your eyes. But he said that the last thing he remembered before he went unconscious was reviewing his whole life. He was 22 years old. His life was pretty much about picking up babes and partying and rock climbing. And that was it. And he said just before he went unconscious, he remembered thinking, yuck. Wayne Dyer said, don't let the music be unsung in you at the end of your life. And here he was at the potential end of his life thinking, yuck. And he realized when he came to that he didn't want to once again have that feeling of yuck at the end of his life. That he wanted to have something more fulfilling, and it began the process of spiritual growth. And that near-death experience that he had opened him up to new doors and gateways. And this is a little nerd talk here, but I read another study this week about sociopaths and near-death experiences. Sound interesting? They found that without exception, every sociopath who had a near-death experience stopped all sociopathic behavior because of the empathy that opened up through their near-death experience of realizing that they were connected with all life and with other people, and they couldn't go back. They were connected. They realized, oh my gosh, there's more to life. So this guy had this yuck experience. So do you want to have an experience at the end of your life that is fulfilling? You say, I gave it my best. I grew spiritually. I engaged with the needs of others, and I fulfilled the divine plan, the will of God. I willed to will the will of God. And Maya Angelou, again, who passed this week, said that one test of whether you're fulfilling your divine purpose is to imagine yourself at the end of your life, looking back, and then ask yourself the question, would I feel good about this decision, this action, this course at the end of my life? Kind of time travel, and then turn around and look back and say, would this feel good? And that'll give you an indication. Now, we're talking about something called divine guidance here. But divine guidance, we make such a highfalutin thing. If you just assume that you have divine guidance, ask the question, go into a space of I don't know, and then just go about your business, that divine guidance will percolate down and you will get the guidance that you need. It'll show up in your mind, but you've got to be willing to ask the question and open up to it. To be open and receptive to that intuitive guidance, that voice within you. To get quiet enough, momentarily, to hear the angel whispers, to feel the flutter of the angel wings. This is metaphoric. To follow the gossamer threads of that guidance. But trust, that seems so intimidating, but trust that you have the capacity within yourself to do that, and it will filter down into your consciousness as you live your life moment by moment. But it only happens when you invite it in, when you open yourself up to it. And you've got to commit to it in the face of your fear. You've got to open up and let that not afraid come in. Jesus said some pretty tough stuff about this to people who were thinking of following him or that he was inviting to follow him. And there's 3 in a row. They're in Luke. First one is, as they went down the road, somebody said to Jesus, I'm just going to follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, foxes have their dens, birds have their nests, but the Son of Man doesn't even have a place to lay down and rest his head. He said to another person, follow me. But that one said, Sir, let me go back and bury my father. That meant, let me take care of my father's estate. Jesus answered, you leave the dead to go bury their own dead. You go and you tell people about this kingdom of God. Wow. That's not a very Christian act, is it? But that's the way Jesus talked to people. He was challenging people to stretch beyond their comfort zones, to get out of that consciousness that would look back on the life and go, yuck. Somebody else said, I will follow you, sir, but first, let me go and say goodbye to my family. And Jesus said to him, anyone who starts to plow and then looks back is useless for the kingdom of heaven. But it means moving past being wishy-washy. Jesus said that you've got to commit to this with your whole heart. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. He called it the pearl of great price. He called it the treasure in the field. And if you will make the commitment to your soul, to your innermost being, and express that innermost being with your whole beingness, then you will find movement in your life. And you will get back up. But you've got to be willing to sometimes not go along with the crowd. Thoreau, and it's quoted in this chapter, called it marching to the beat of a different drum. And sometimes you got to zig when other people are zagging. You've got to yin when other people are yanging. You got to do the thing that is yours to do and sing the song that's yours to sing, even if somebody else doesn't appreciate it. In fact, it's guaranteed that some people won't. That's probably why he said, don't go back and say goodbye to your family, because the family probably would have pulled those people back into that old stinking thinking that they grew up in. So what do? Well, elsewhere he talked about this. He said, when you've got a situation where people are not accepting the teaching and the things that you're putting out there, the song that you're singing, he said, shake the dust off your feet and move on. And this last week I was thinking, and I was meditating on something that had to do with people far, far away. And I was thinking, okay, what do I do with this? And I got, shake the dust off your feet. And what do you think the dust is? And I thought, what would the dust be? Oh my gosh, what was in the streets? In the ancient times, what was in the streets?
Manure.
Dried manure. You basically got to off your boots, you got to be willing. But there's no resistance to it. There's no condemnation. There's no put down. There's just, you do your thing and I do mine, this is what's going on, and then you let it go and you move forward in such a way that you empower yourself. You empower yourself without disempowering anyone else. What did Oscar Wilde say? Be yourself, everybody else is taken. And I've often shared about my old roommate when I was right out of the Youth of Unity, and he was in the bunk below me, and he moved out to California, and we shared a house for a year, and then he was my landlord for 2 years. But he would take classes on weekends in stand-up comedy, and one of his classmates was a guy named Robin Williams. And he came back and told me the story about what this guy said, that when you're playing in a room with 25 tables, and 24 of them are with you, and one of them sitting there looking at you funny, don't play to the 25th table. Let them go. Because you'll lose the other 24 if you play to the 25th table. Play to the 24 and sing the song to those who are open to it. And don't resist the 25th table. Just don't let your attention be drawn off purpose. Allow your attention to be on fulfilling the needs of the people who are receptive and open to it. Now, another piece of this is spiritual service. Where are the needs of the world intersecting with the will of God and with your spiritual growth? And where are the needs of the world? How do you do this? You know, for so many people, I hear people say, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my purpose is. Without exception, you'd never see them volunteering. If a person volunteers, if they get outside of themselves and they're doing small things with great love, they can feel that purpose. The purpose isn't a job description. It's not grandiose. I remember once, many years ago, a woman came up to me and said, I did what you said to do last week. And I said, what's that? She said, I quit my lousy job. I said, I don't remember saying that. Yeah, you said you got to fulfill your purpose. And I had a lousy job, so I quit it. I said, oh. And I thought, oh boy. I said, well, I never said that. Well, she quit her lousy job. Thankfully, even in that bad economic climate of those days, she went ahead and found another job. She hated it, and she quit that too. So she found another job, and she hated that one. True story. Her first job offered the job back, and she took it, and she loved it. Because she had changed. You know, she could give her service and give her love and do the thing that was in front of hers to do with great love and change her consciousness. So what is your spiritual purpose? I have shared about Jane Elizabeth Hart, and she had the worst boss on earth, a woman named Janie, and everybody hated her. And Jane Elizabeth Hart did too at first, because she'd come up and look over her shoulder, and even if she did everything right, she'd find something wrong, and she was disparaging and difficult and mean, and she asked in meditation, what should I do? Thinking, oh, I shouldn't have to stay here and put up with this, and it was love her. Love her, and by the way, it's not wrong to quit a job, so please understand this is her story. Love her, so she just loved her, and just, you know, dealt with her with love. Well, the months went on, and Janie retired, and they had her retirement party, and everybody was glad to see her go. But by that time, Jane Elizabeth had established, you know, she stopped bothering her so much, and they had a better rapport. So anyway, she went into the women's room, and there was Janie by herself sobbing, and she just turned into Jane Elizabeth Hart and took her in her arms. She says, "You're the only person who's ever loved me. You are the only person." Now, what is her purpose? Maybe her purpose was to plant that seed in the soul that was there. What is your spiritual purpose? How can you fulfill that purpose? And what are you doing to fulfill that purpose? Are you asking, and are you willing to maybe march to a different drum? I remember many, many years ago, I was told by another minister, you know what your problem is? You march to your own, beating your own drum. Yeah. And I thought, wait a minute, I thought that's what we were taught to do. That's what Thoreau said. But you got to march to your own drum without resistance, and know that there is a divine purpose that is expressing through you, in you, and as you, and it can only find expression through you. You are a unique individual, a unique expression of God, and your purpose has got to be at that intersection of your spiritual growth, the will of God, and the needs of other people. So what about your spiritual growth? What are you doing every day to connect with your spiritual growth? What are you doing every day to get in touch with your spiritual growth? To practice your spiritual growth? To listen? To do that deepening? To follow the principles that we shared last week? The meditating, the praying, What are you doing every day consistently to get in touch with that guidance? Spiritual guidance is always, always there. It's always speaking to, in, and through you. Now, I'm going to bring up something else that came up in the class on Tuesday night. And this is why I'd love all of you to come on Tuesday night. And the reason why is because we go deeper. We have small group discussion. We have, I go deeper into the lesson, and then we have a meditation. But somebody asked, how come I ask and I don't get anything? And sometimes the reason why is because it's not time. Sometimes there's growth to go through. And I said, even sometimes I ask for guidance and the answer is none of your business. That it isn't like it's a bubblegum machine that you put in a quarter and you get the bubblegum back. There's a process of growth involved with it. So ask and trust that you will get the guidance that is yours to receive at the level of your own understanding to fulfill that divine design that is within you. So each one of us has to do this and realize that it's a unique expression for you and that what's right for you is not right for you. That's the problem. I shared this also on Tuesday night. I teach a class and I'll teach a spiritual or give a talk. I'll teach a spiritual principle and it can't be applied exactly the same for every person. For instance, in your life right now, you might need to stand up for yourself and assert. You might need to just relax and be more yielding and receptive. You might need to take some action. You might need to learn patience. And everybody is different. The spiritual principles are universal, but we have to intuit them on the level of our own beingness. That's why this spirituality is an inside job. Spirit is constantly trying to feed you, trying to give you something, but you've got to receive it. I was just thinking about babies, and I realized that nobody ever made a baby swallow. Nobody ever really forced a baby to swallow. You can take the food and entertain the baby to get it open its mouth, or you can give it its favorite food, or you can even withhold a little food for a while to see if it gets hungry enough that it'll accept the food. But nobody ever made any baby swallow anything. Similarly, spiritual growth is an inside job. Now, this is true with other people as well. You can never get anybody to do anything they don't want to do. But ultimately, spirituality is an inside job. So you've got to be the one who takes those steps necessary to become open and receptive and receive that spiritual food that's there for you. So we're talking today about not being wishy-washy, about following divine guidance, about finding our purpose and expressing it from within us, not leaving this physical life with our song yet unsung, but allowing ourselves to sing it. One of the opportunities that is there for us is something that's in your bulletin that we're doing over the summer and into the fall, and it's called the Unexpected Income Program. And whether or not you sign up for it and get the free book on Prospering Power of Love by Catherine Ponder, it is a thought form that you can commit to of divine love that is connected with the manifestation of substance. So what I'm going to do is close today's talk with doing the exercise of the prayer treatment for unexpected income. So I want you to take this out of your bulletins, and then we're going to read it aloud, and that will be our closing prayer. So where it says, my prayer treatment for unexpected income. Together. My life is blessed with infinite abundance. The abundance of God is my infinite resource. I am now in the flow of abundant blessings. Good is now flowing into my life through unexpected avenues. God is actively at work in my life, blessing me. I open my mind to receive my good. I expand my capacity to give and receive my good. Wonderful, positive, surprising things are now happening for me. With God as my source, I am amazed at my rich abundance. I give freely and fearlessly into life, and life multiplies and returns my gift many times over. Many rich blessings now manifest in expected and unexpected ways. God is now providing for me in wondrous ways. I am grateful, and so it is. Amen. Now as we move into this spiritually receptive space, there's an energy that has been established here. There's a life, a vibration, and it's ready for you. And the beauty of it is that all you've got to do is just open up to it. So if there's anything in your hands, let it go, set it down, and have an open mind. Imagine your mind opening. Open heart. Imagine your heart opening. And in alignment with this, open your hands. And let go of anything that you want to hold on to or do. And move more deeply into the presence that has all the answers for you. What is the desire of your heart? That spiritual purpose is found as you align with the divine plan. Meet the needs of the people around you. And then move into what is your next step of spiritual growth. It takes getting quiet enough to perceive the angel whispers, hear the flutter of angel wings, the gossamer threads of guidance. But you don't have to work at it. You just have to allow for it to happen. And as we move deeper into this presence, we move with this question, letting go into a space of receptivity. What is my next spiritual step? What is my divine purpose? What is my next spiritual step? What is my divine purpose? And go into a receptive space, letting go of the need to even know what the answer is, knowing that somewhere in the deepest recesses of your mind and heart, you are receiving it, and it will surface in the fullness of time. What is my divine purpose? What am I here to do? What is my next expressive step? And let go, quiet your mind, and don't think. Is that you've been downloaded, you've received, and as you go forth into your life, you will know things that you didn't know that you knew. You'll be guided by invisible hands in ways you cannot now fully anticipate. And you are moving in the flow of that infinite spirit. With gratitude and anticipation of the good to come, we say, thank you, God, and so it is. Well, we're going to take our offerings now, and we're taking the offering with the statement, I give from my divine purpose, and I receive abundantly. Together, I give from my divine purpose, and I receive abundantly. And silently. And again aloud together. I give from my divine purpose, and I receive abundantly. And so it is.